This is the 6-step blueprint to stop switching strategies forever. It's the same framework that allowed me to become a full-time trader over 4 years ago and help traders just like you to go from constantly switching strategies to consistent payouts. So if you are tired of losing accounts, let's start with the first, making your strategy actually followable, because I guarantee 95% of people who are watching this don't have a followable strategy. And before you click off, let me prove it to you. If you would backtest 10,000 trades, would you take or skip the exact same trades every single time? No hesitation, no it depends. If not, then your strategy will not be followable in real life, even if you meditate 10 hours a day while listening to all the trading psychology books in the world. But not being able to be consistent is not even the worst part. Because let me ask you this, how would you possibly know if your strategy is profitable or not if you can't even backtest it? If you don't know your win rate, risk reward, etc. And you might say, oh, I backtested, I have the numbers. Well, that's good, but what did you backtest exactly? Because if you haven't backtested the exact same setup every single time, then your data is totally flawed. You just wasted your time. And if you think you took the same setup every time, like I did back in the day, then I truly challenge you to go to wherever you backtested, get the same pair and the same time frame that you already backtested on, and run it again. Then just watch how different your numbers and trades will be. I can promise you, you will be amazed. And I'm not even talking about the bias while backtesting and how much worse your results will get in live trading with an even somewhat negotiable strategy. Because under pressure, you will make mistakes. Everyone does. So here is how we're gonna solve this in 3 simple steps. First, strip your strategy down to the absolute core. Start removing every single rule, indicator or condition one by one. If your setup still makes perfect sense without that specific rule, that rule is just noise. Delete it. Second, backtest this naked, simplified strategy. Do it strictly on the same exact pair and the exact same time frame, so your statistics are actually valid. Third, find the sweet spot. You are looking for the exact point where highest profitability overlaps with simplicity. The moment you add a rule that only gives you 2-3% better win rate but doubles your confusion, you drop it. But this brings us to the next problem, because we need to backtest to gather statistical data and then make a judgment based on it. But what if I told you your data means absolutely nothing? So you backtested your strategy. 50 trades, maybe 100 if you are serious. You looked at the numbers and thought, okay, this works, let's go live. And that's literally the worst thing you could have done. Let's say you backtested 50 trades and you got 50% win rate. Well, you have 50% win rate, right? Not really. At a 50 trade sample, your true win rate will fall between 36% and 64%. That's plus minus 14% difference. The worst case is almost double as the best case. What about 100 trades then? Well, that's a bit better. You only have plus minus 10% to each side. So you might have a really profitable strategy or a horrible one, and you don't have a clue. But this gets even worse, because at least with your win rate, it's binary. You either win or lose, that's it. But your risk reward, that can be anything. One trade is 3 hours, next trade is 1 hour, the next one after that is 5 hours. The variance is way bigger, which means your average risk reward will always be even less reliable than your win rate. So not only you don't know your real win rate, you don't know your real risk reward either. And these are not separate numbers when you calculate if a strategy is profitable or not. These add together. If on top of this, your strategy isn't even fully followable, which we just talked about, now you are stacking randomness on randomness. And you can start to see why trading didn't work for you. So basically, every single number you are basing your decisions on could be completely off. And in reality, you don't have a clue whether your strategy works or not. But there is good news too, because the solution to this is pretty simple. You need at least 400 backtested trades, strictly the same setup. That brings down your win rate margin to around plus minus 5% on each side. That's still not perfect, but that's something you can actually work with. But what if I tell you, even after 1000 backtested trades, you might not be trading a profitable strategy? So let me tell you how I almost lost my funnel account just roughly a year ago. I wanted to create a strategy for my students which has low risk reward, so it will be easier to follow than my strategy at the time, which had 10 plus risk reward. Yes, really, 10 plus. So I backtested more than 1k trades. The results look good, but I knew from experience that before I give this out to students, I need to test it live, because even after all these years, I might have missed something. and you bet. The strategy had around 65% win rate and 1 risk reward. Sounds good. I started trading it live, and after like 3-4 months I was down around 6% on the account, and I was like, what? So I started making the math on what's the expected drawdown for my specific strategy, and it showed that my chance of this amount of drawdown was around 0.1%, which basically means something was very wrong with my data. So now I needed to look into what I missed. I checked the rules, fine. Checked the execution, fine. Everything looked correct. Then I remember talking with one of my students about something called overfitting. Now, let me explain what that means in practice, because this might be the most expensive mistake in trading that nobody talks about. So what I did was I backtested around 60 trades on every pair. 3 years of data. Then I only choose the best performing ones, thinking, oh, my strategy works better on these, look at the win rate. Sounds smart, right? You heard this before. Well, that's exactly the problem, because as we talked about earlier, 60 trades means your win rate can be off by plus minus 12-13%. So the pairs that showed 65% might have actually been 52%. So I didn't pick the best pairs. I picked the ones that happened to be on a lucky streak. And I always told everybody for years that your pairs don't matter, because you will have the same or very similar win rate on all of them. But I still drank the Kool-Aid. And even worse, because I only traded the pairs that were running above average for the past 3 years, you bet I got straight into a losing streak while the other pairs started winning. So the point of the story is, even after 1000 backtested trades, even after 6 years of experience, I still almost blew my account because of one mistake I couldn't catch in the backtest. This is why demo exists. Not because it's fun, it's really boring, but because the real market will show you things that your backtest never will. Spreads, execution issues, overfitting, whether the strategy even fits your lifestyle. But everything that we talked about is just the beginning. It's just the plain math. But we all know the deeper problem is always psychological. So if you don't make the mindset shift, I will explain you in the next point. You can backtest 10k trades and demo all year long. You will still lose money, because currently you are judging yourself and your strategy by something you have zero control over. Let me give you an example. Imagine you go to a bar, you get absolutely smashed, and you decide to drive your car home. You run 2 red lights, you speed on the highway, but you make it home safe. Does that mean that driving drunk is a good strategy? Or are you a genius driver? No. And if you keep repeating the strategy because of the good outcome, you will eventually end up in jail, or worse. But let's flip it. We are sober. You stop at the red light, you look both ways. Out of nowhere, some guy streaming on his phone rear-ends your car. Are you going to wake up the next day and say, well, driving sober and stopping at the red light clearly doesn't work, so tomorrow I'm just gonna drive like I'm playing GTA? Of course not, because you know you did everything right, but sometimes bad stuff happens. But your brain is wired to judge the quality of the decision based on the result, not based on whether the decision was actually good or not. In psychology, it's called outcome bias. And this is not a bad habit. It's how your brain is built. This is why if a surgeon does everything perfectly, but there is complications with the patient, people sue him. And if another surgeon makes 3 mistakes, but the patient survives and is good, nobody says a word. The outcome overrides everything in your brain. It doesn't matter what actually happened. It only matters what the result was. So when you win a trade, your brain says, good decision. When you lose a trade, your brain says, bad decision. Regardless of whether you followed your rules or not. And this creates a cycle that's almost impossible to break. You win a few trades, you are confident, taking setups you normally wouldn't because you are on fire. Then you lose a few. Suddenly, you are scared. And you are back on YouTube looking for the next strategy. So here is how to fix this in 3 steps. Step 1, before every single trade, the only question you ask yourself is, does this match my rules or not? Yes or no? If yes, you take it. If no, you skip it. Step 2, after every trade, you don't judge it by whether it won or lost. You judge it by one thing only. Did I follow my plan? If you followed your plan and lost, that's a winning trade. If you broke your rules and won, that's a losing trade. Step 3, at the end of every week, don't look at your P&L first. Look at the execution rate. How many trades out of 10 did you follow your rules on? If it's 9 out of 10, that's a good week, even if you lost money. If it's 5 out of 10, that's a terrible week, even if you made money. Because the money from bad execution will leave your account eventually, but the money from good execution will always come back. But at this point you might be thinking, okay, but if after all of this the strategy still isn't working, what's the harm in trying a new one? Well, let me show you the actual price you pay every time you switch, because it's way more than you think. Let's just do a quick math based on what we talked about until now. First, you needed to find a strategy which is even profitable out of the many fake ones. Second, you needed to backtest at least 400 trades. Third, you needed to go to demo for at least 2 months. Then you need to gain the confidence to go live with it. This is at least 3-4 months of work. But what's gonna happen if you switch? The 400 backtested trades? Gone. The 2 months of demo? Gone. The confidence you slowly started to build in the system? Completely gone. So let's say after a month of live trading you hit a rough patch and switch. Cool. New strategy, other 400 backtested trades, other 2 months of demo, building confidence again. That's other 3-4 months. You do this 3 times a year and you literally spend 12 months going in circles. You didn't move forward a single step. You just reset the same 3-4 months over and over. But here's what makes this even worse. You can't even see this from the inside because your brain is tricking you. When you drop your old strategy and find a new one, what happens? You get excited. You get that massive dopamine hit of, oh, this was the missing piece. This is why I was losing. And then you sit at your desk for 10 hours. You draw new lines, you watch new videos, you create new Excel sheets for your new backtesting. It's hard work and it feels like progress. But you're confusing motion with progress. It's like running on a treadmill. You are sweating, you are exhausted, you are putting in maximum effort, but when you look down, you haven't moved a single inch forward. You just burned all your energy staying in the exact same spot. But staying in the same spot isn't even the worst part. Rather, the absolute irony of when you switch. Because every strategy has winning cycles and losing cycles. When do you abandon your strategy? You abandon it after a losing streak. In trading terms, you are selling the bottom of your own system. What do you switch to? You switch to a strategy you just saw on YouTube where some guy is showing a massive payout. Or to a strategy which shows you an amazing backtest result in the last 15 trades. Meaning you are buying the top of somebody else's system. You are jumping into a new strategy exactly when its hot streak is over and is due for a drawdown. And the funniest thing about this, you spend all day trying to buy low and sell high on the charts, while you're literally buying high and selling low your own strategies. So how do you break out of this cycle? You pick one strategy that you backtested and you mentally sign a contract that you will take 100 live trades with it without changing anything. No tweaks, no improvement, no adjustments after a losing streak. 100 trades. Then you look at the data. But there is still one thing that will make you want to break this contract every single week. Because right now, you probably spend hours and hours every week watching trading videos. But if you are trading for a few years, you probably noticed a weird paradox. The more content you consume, the more confused you become. But before we get into why this happens, let me ask you a question. If you were standing in a room with 10 different personal trainers and all of them were screaming a different exercise at you at the same time, one says squats, one says push-ups, one says cardio, would you try to do all of them at once? Of course not. You would look like a complete idiot and you would break your back in like 5 minutes. But in trading, that's exactly what you are doing every single day. You have 10 different mentors in your ear, and because their incentive is to keep you watching, they have to tell you that their way is the only way. They have to make you feel like what you're doing is wrong. And it's not your fault, because every creator, myself included, has to sell you the idea that their approach is the one you need. I sold courses too, and my strategy was profitable, I know that for a fact. But more than half of my students didn't become consistently profitable. And for a long time, I couldn't figure out why. Until I looked at what they were doing outside of my course. They were watching 5 other traders on YouTube at the same time, mixing my rules with someone else's entries with other guys' risk management, and then wondering why nothing works. The industry needs you to keep switching. If you pick one strategy and stick with it for a year, you don't buy courses, you don't click on strategy videos, you are just trading, maybe even making money, and that's terrible for business. So the entire system is designed not by some evil conspiracy or evil people, just by incentives to keep you searching forever. But here is what makes this the most dangerous trap in trading. If you are sitting on your couch doing nothing, at least you would know you are doing nothing. You would eventually get up and do something. But watching trading videos, that feels like work. It feels like progress. Your brain gives you the same dopamine as if you actually did something productive. So you can sit there for 6 months, 12 months, for years watching videos every single night and genuinely believe you are getting closer to becoming profitable. Meanwhile, you haven't taken a single live trade in weeks. You haven't backtested anything. You haven't executed your own strategy once. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you are almost there. Like you just need one more video, one more piece of the puzzle, and then you will be ready. But that moment never comes because there is always one more video. So here is what you do. Pick one strategy, backtest it, 400 trades minimum. If the numbers work, go to demo. If demo works, go live. And while you are doing this, unsubscribe from 90% of trading channels, especially the ones who show strategy videos. And I know this sounds extreme, but think about it. You tried the watch more videos approach for how long now? A year, 2 years? How is that working out? Exactly. Look, you didn't watch this video because you enjoyed learning about strategy switching. You watched it because you are tired of going in circles. But now you are already way ahead of where you were 15 minutes ago. So pick one strategy, backtest it, execute it, and protect it.